Breaking a bone isn't a big deal. If you're my wife, be here in 3 minutes.
While I was in the hospital, my husband insisted that I attend Samantha's wedding. He showed zero concern for my well-being. I finally confronted him, saying, "As of now, I quit being your wife."
What?
Caught off guard, he let out a gasp. This is my chance. I started my counterattack. I'll make him regret ever looking down on me. My name is Rachel. I'm 28. I have an older brother, Alexander, who is 4 years older than me. Both my parents are gone. They passed away when I was in middle school. At the time, Alexander was in high school. He dropped out to support me and got to work. I remember him juggling multiple part-time jobs. Alexander has been working at a certain company for about 10 years now. He was directly scouted by Joseph, the company's CEO, who valued Alexander's character. Alexander often mentions Joseph. He seems to have a deep respect for him, almost like a father figure. Joseph's nephew, Brian, was introduced to me 2 years ago. Alexander came home from work one day and said,
Joseph wants to introduce his nephew to you. What do you think?
I wasn't seeing anyone at the time, so I quickly accepted the offer. I thought, if it's the nephew of Joseph, whom Alexander trusts, he must be a good person. Having a boyfriend would put Alexander at ease, especially if it's Joseph's nephew. 2 weeks later, I was introduced to Brian. After a few dinner dates, he asked me to be his girlfriend. He was friendly, considerate, and adored his own sister. He reminded me of Alexander, and I immediately liked him. I agreed on the spot and began dating Brian. After a year of dating, we tied the knot. But 6 months into the marriage, I saw Brian's true colors.
Samantha is coming back home.
Brian excitedly told me this a month ago. Samantha is Brian's sister, making her my sister-in-law. She had been living alone in the neighboring state, but decided to move back home until her wedding day. Brian's family home is only about a 15-minute walk from our house. Thrilled about his sister's return, Brian was in high spirits. The night before Samantha was set to move in with her in-laws, Brian suddenly said this.
Samantha is coming home tomorrow. Get everything ready to welcome her.
I left my job to focus on homemaking after we got married. So I get that handling the household chores is my responsibility. Even so, I was slightly irked by the commanding tone in Brian's voice. Why the rush? I'm sure Samantha's parents are also excited for her return. Can't she come some other time?
Samantha comes first for me. I married you to have you serve her. Now you can finally fulfill that role, so get to work.
I was speechless. Brian continued,
Don't you dare complain to Alexander. If I ask Joseph, he can fire your precious Alexander in no time.
You can't be serious.
Do as you're told, and you don't have to worry. Got it.
I was devastated by his thinly veiled threat. Samantha, true to Brian's word, treated me like a servant. If I so much as frowned, she'd say, "I'll tell Joseph," and smirk along with Brian. I had no choice but to comply. She treated me like a slave and occasionally demanded money. I drew the line there, but Samantha smugly retorted, "Brian said, if you need money, ask Rachel. So, cough it up. Otherwise, I'll tell Joseph you were mean to me." I was at my wit's end. I withdrew some savings I'd built up before marriage and gave them to Samantha. I didn't want to be a burden to Alexander, who had always supported me. The only option left was to obey Brian and Samantha. The only glimmer of hope was that Samantha's stay at my in-laws was temporary. She's set to get officially married the day after the wedding ceremony, and then they'll move to a new home in a different state. Until then, I have to hang on. That's what I kept telling myself to get through each day. One evening, just 3 days away from Samantha's wedding, Brian came home from work and dropped a bombshell.
"Prepare $10,000 as a wedding gift for Samantha."
What? I couldn't help but blurt out in a voice tinged with shock and anger. Brian turned toward me, wearing a displeased expression.
"Look, I don't mind if you don't want to, but if you don't listen, we're getting a divorce. And your brother's job is done for, ha ha ha."
I was speechless, stunned by the threat of divorce from my husband. Before I could say anything, Brian doubled down.
"Hey, I can divorce you any time, you know."
And with that, he waved a signed divorce paper in front of me. In a fit of frustration, I snatched the paper away from him. I shot him a piercing glare, but he remained defiant.
"Go ahead, make my day. Divorce me, and you and your brother are doomed."
Hopeless, I felt cornered. I stormed out of the house, aimlessly wandering the nighttime streets. Why did it come to this? Devastated, mentally and physically, I felt completely lost. While attempting to descend a pedestrian bridge, my foot slipped. Ah! Before I could scream, I tumbled down to the ground below. I passed out as I hit the cold pavement. When I came to, I found myself in a hospital bed. Where am I? My brother Alexander peered into my face, full of concern.
"Rachel, are you all right?"
I was utterly confused. Observing my condition, Alexander explained what had happened. Last night, a passerby found me collapsed under the pedestrian bridge and called an ambulance. I had fractured my leg and would need a significant time to fully recover. I was even told I'd require long-term hospitalization and rehab. Alexander looked at me intently after his explanation.
"Why were you out at that hour? Brian hasn't even visited you in the hospital. Did something happen between you two?"
I could feel Alexander's genuine concern. I broke down, unable to hold back any longer. "He only married me to use me. He threatened to fire you, Alexander, if I don't obey. I wanted to protect you, but now he's demanding $10,000 for Samantha's wedding gift." Alexander probably couldn't make heads or tails of my rambling. Even so, he nodded and simply said,
"You've been through a lot."
After a good cry, I began to regain some semblance of composure. Alexander was radiating an aura of anger. After hearing my whole story, he smiled gently at me.
"You didn't have to worry about me. What I can't stand is seeing you hurting, Rachel. But thanks for having my back."
He playfully tapped the top of my head. Despite being almost 30, it made me feel oddly secure. My phone rang right after I finished telling Alexander everything. It was a message from Brian.
"Hospitalized? Ha ha ha. Don't think that's getting you out of our wedding gift. Have $10,000 ready and come back now. Tomorrow's Samantha's wedding."
He's always so concerned about Samantha, not a care about my health. Something inside me snapped. Enough is enough. I'm not putting up with this man anymore. That day I left home, I took my wallet, phone, and divorce papers. I spread the divorce papers on the table and signed them without hesitation. Alexander offered to submit the papers for me. He also updated Joseph on the situation. Fortunately, Joseph wasn't as concerned as I thought he would be. Now I can finally stand up to him. The next day, I answered one of Brian's ignored calls.
"Don't you dare ignore me."
The first thing out of his mouth was a shout. He was visibly angry. Brian raised his voice without even waiting for my reply.
"You planning on skipping Samantha's wedding? A fracture isn't that big a deal. Get over here in 3 minutes. And bring the gift money."
I just quit being your wife.
"What?"
Caught off guard, he was speechless.
"What do you mean? Quit the nonsense and get over here. Or else I'll tell Joseph."
I'm simply stating facts. We're divorced now, so no wedding and no gift. Want to tell Joseph? Go ahead. Your threats don't work anymore. He didn't know Alexander had already informed Joseph. Brian tried another threat.
"Don't mess around. Do you want Alexander to lose his job? Is that okay? After all he did for you?"
Brian seemed a bit panicked, perhaps because I was unusually defiant. Staying silent all this time now seemed so foolish. I decided to clue him in. Alexander won't be fired. You will. Alexander already told Joseph you've been threatening me. Joseph is not happy with you.
"That can't be. Joseph has been very fond of me. I was even fast-tracked into the company. There's no way he'd fire me."
Believe what you want. You'll find out soon enough. Are you at Samantha's venue? If you are, try finding Joseph. I bet you can't. Your little scheme with your sister has already been reported.
"There's no way."
Joseph is livid. Not only are you getting fired, Brian, but Samantha's little scheme will also come to light. Have fun at the wedding. My ex-husband seemed incredulous at my words. Now that I have nothing to fear, there's no need for me to be intimidated by him anymore. When I raised my voice, Brian responded with a submissive tone.
"Poor big brother of yours. Quit high school just to support his sister, and now he'll lose his job because of that sister. You think an underdog like him can easily find another job? Even Alexander will start disliking you, you know. Haha.
Don't call my brother an underdog. You're the real underdog here.
You sure you want to say that? I'm really going to fire him. Apologize now and bring me $1,000,000 and you're off the hook. You're Samantha's personal servant, after all. Bring me the $1,000,000 now.
I completely lost my cool with my condescending ex-husband. Forgetting I was in the hospital, I shouted into the phone. The one who needs to apologize is you.
What?
Stunned by my loud voice, I didn't hold back. I won't forgive you even if you apologize. You're definitely getting fired. And your wedding? I bet none of your family will even show up. Joseph's been talking to everyone, you know.
No way. Joseph wouldn't do that.
Well, they aren't at the venue, are they? Maybe it's time to realize you and your sister have been written off. The whole family's disgusted with you. Shame. Even Samantha probably won't forgive you. Hearing this, Brian let out a cry that almost sounded like a scream. And why shouldn't he? Losing his servant of a wife, alienated by family, and even potentially hated by his sister. He's got every reason to scream. I guess we're done here, I said to my ex, now presumably understanding the gravity of his situation. Enjoy your wedding, if it even happens. I hung up without waiting for Brian's response. After that, both Brian and Samantha called multiple times, but I ignored them. Eventually, they gave up and sent emails instead.
Rachel, I was wrong. I won't call you a servant anymore. Please come back. Samantha's wedding will be ruined without you. Please attend and explain everything to Uncle.
Rachel, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. You don't have to bring $1,000,000. Just bring 10,000 and come right away. I won't be able to have the ceremony, let alone register our marriage. They're still prioritizing their wedding at this point. I can only be flabbergasted at Samantha saying, 10,000 is fine. We're not family anymore. I sent the same message back to both of them. More calls and emails came, but I didn't respond. Sometime later, Alexander came to my hospital room. Following him was Brian's uncle. As soon as Joseph locked eyes with me, he deeply bowed his head.
My nephew really messed up. I'm truly sorry. I never thought he'd be such a person.
Don't worry, it's not your fault, Joseph. Keep your head up.
I fired Brian. From now on, both Brian and Samantha will get the cold shoulder from the entire family. I'll also talk to his father. I'm sure he'll discipline him.
Is that so? Finally, it's over. Hearing Joseph's words, I felt relieved for the first time. Just as Joseph promised, Brian lost his job. Seems like his job hunt is struggling. He's never really looked for a job before. Samantha, who received pushback from all relatives, had her wedding canceled, just as expected. Not only was their wedding canceled, but they were also ordered to pay for the cancellation fees. They're now disowned by their parents and live in a cramped apartment with no one to turn to. Brian is blamed by Samantha almost daily, saying, "This is all your fault." What was supposed to be happy co-living with his beloved sister turned into daily agony for him. Serves them right. As for me, thanks to Joseph's offer, I'm now working at the same company as Alexander. We've resumed our life together, just the two of us, living freely without any family interference. From now on, I plan to live a good life, supporting each other with Alexander.